You might have heard that exercise doesn't work for weight loss. You hear it on podcasts, you hear it in interviews. You might even have come across a book or a scientist saying that exercising doesn't make you lose fat. And while this is true to some extent, it's completely misleading. So let's break it down and look at what's actually going on. So where does this idea come from? It comes from research showing that people actually don't lose as much weight as you would expect from exercising. So you might row, you might run, you might swim, you might lift weights. But what happens is that then your appetite kicks in because your body is really good at regulating your calorie intake and your calorie output. So yes, exercise does make you hungry, but that's not the end of the story. Okay, so let's be clear. If you jog a little bit, you run once in a while, you might do a Pilates class, but you keep on eating the same stuff that made you gain weight in the first place, you're not gonna lose weight by exercising. But when you change it up, you start lifting weights, you start sprinting, you start doing high intensity workouts, and you change your diet where you start to eat more whole foods, less processed foods, more protein, and generally nourishing your body more, combined with the exercise, things start to add up. First of all, your metabolism is going to increase because you're generally expending more energy. You'll start to burn more fat even at rest when you're doing high intensity exercise. This is due to something called EPOC. And even though it doesn't account for much, if you start doing this continuously, it will add up over time. EPOC stands for excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. That's a long word, but all you need to know is that when you're doing high intensity stuff, your body's gonna try to repair, try to build up, and try to compensate for all the stuff that you did when you're at rest. And this requires energy. And that energy mainly comes from fat, as sugar and glycogen is being used to fill up the stores in your muscles that you use during the high intensity. You will start to build muscle, and muscle is metabolically expensive. So this too will add up over time. You might not gain 10 or 20 kilos of muscle, but even just gaining a little bit over time, this will increase your caloric expenditure, and this will help you burn fat. So another amazing thing that happens is you're gonna increase insulin sensitivity. And this means that you're gonna be able to handle sugar and carbohydrate better. And insulin resistance, which is the opposite of insulin sensitivity, is often the result of being overweight and living an unhealthy lifestyle, being inactive. And this is what leads to type 2 diabetes. So exercising is gonna increase your insulin sensitivity, it's gonna make you better at handling sugar and carbohydrate, and because you're using less insulin, you're also gonna store less fat in your fat cells. So quite a lot of studies have actually looked at what is the EPOC when you're doing high intensity exercise. And this is something I wrote my bachelor thesis on when I was studying sports science. And it's pretty cool to see that when you're doing high intensity training like HIIT training, and even better if you're doing heavy resistance training, you will actually see an increase in the metabolic rate or the calorie expenditure at rest for up to 48 hours after you finish training. The study that I've seen that produced the largest amount of EPOC had an elevated metabolism for up to 72 hours. This was an insane protocol, and I don't recommend anyone doing this, but it is possible to actually have an elevated metabolism even at rest when you're doing high intensity training. And although this is not a lot, if you're doing continuous training over time, even just having a higher caloric expenditure of 100 or 200 calories per day will definitely help you lose fat in the long run, especially if you're also changing your diet. And that's key. But if your diet is centered around processed grains, refined seed oils and sugar, and snacks for that matter, then your body's gonna fight you every turn. So usually hunger will win, and you have a limited amount of willpower. So although you could cut calories and count your calories, and you can still have your pizza and your ice cream and all this stuff, it's gonna be a matter of willpower because you're gonna get hungry and your body's gonna need the nourishment that you're gonna get from real food. So some foods will have a match between calories and nutritional value, and other foods just fill you up with energy. And if you're choosing the foods that mainly just give you energy, then you're gonna lose this battle. So choose the foods that are high in nutrition, all the stuff that I talked about before, the meats, the eggs, the fish, the vegetables, the fruits, the nuts and the berries, stuff like this. It helps to nourish and helps to build your body. Okay, so here's the protocol. Here's what I would recommend and what I do with the people that I work with. lift heavy stuff, sprint, walk a lot, eat nutritious food, get 8 to 9 hours of sleep, and then just repeat this process forever, basically. And so while losing fat is pretty simple, doesn't mean to say that it's easy. It's quite simple to lose 10 kilos, like the weight of this dumbbell. But it doesn't mean to say that it's the easiest thing you're ever gonna do, because you're gonna have to change the way you live your life. You're gonna have to start prioritizing other stuff than the stuff that you're prioritizing now if you're struggling with this. It's not about finding the next hack on Instagram or YouTube. It's about changing your habits, changing your environment, and ultimately changing your priorities in your life. So if you want to be healthy, you need to change stuff that's making you unhealthy, basically. So does exercise actually help you lose weight? Of course it does, but it's not about the calories you burn. It's the fact that you're building a new body, you're optimizing your metabolism, and you're starting to implement healthier habits overall. So while exercise will help you burn more calories for sure, if you're not changing your diet, if you're not changing your priorities, if you're not changing your environment, then you're gonna just compensate by eating more, because now you've earned it by exercising and burning the calories. And this will keep you at a status quo. And I've seen a lot of people come in the gyms over the years that go in and do a crazy amount of hard work and they lose nothing. They're still overweight after 5 years of hammering it in the gym, going to spinning classes, doing like body combat, doing whatever it is people do to try to lose weight, because they're not changing the underlying factors that are making them sick in the first place. So exercise is part of a bigger strategy of building a new and better body that has a bigger engine, because you have bigger muscles, you have a better cardiovascular system, so you can actually produce more force, you can expend more calories because you can do more work, and this will help you burn the extra calories that you have stored in the fat stores. But you need to also change the diet. You need to sleep, you need to manage stress and cortisol, because all of this is part of the puzzle to getting the excess fat down. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and follow this channel for more, and then I can keep putting out stuff that's gonna benefit you and me in the long run. Thank you for watching. If you want help putting a strategy together that will work for your life, DM the word STRONG below, and I'll get back to you and we can have a conversation about how you can reach your goals.